feel?
Yep. Yes, indeed.
Okay, well, welcome to the parent class tonight. Glad you're all here. It's December, it's cold. Some of you braved the weather to come be here tonight, and I'm really glad you're here. Last month, we talked about how to be a better parent mentor. And we went through a couple of questions to help us in that journey. And I'm curious if anybody has had any experience with those questions. We talked about trying to figure out what was our youth's vision, what's their big dream, right? What's holding them back, what are some of their strengths. And I'm curious if anybody has did anything with that, if you have any experience you want to share. You're contemplating Debbie.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking about her, big dreams or right now, or, well, I just want, friends and. So.
And Emma is in Pillars, right? She,
Yes, no, yes,
Yes.
is that right?
Right.
Okay.
And is she the only child you have here? Do you have another one?
Only child so far.
Okay, all right. And then how about Hallie?
Hallie's dreams today. No, she really loved that taxidermy guy that came, and I was like, that might be a cool mix for her because she's super artistic, but she also loves animals. She wants to be a marine biologist. It's been her dream since she was like so tiny. So we did look up marine biology schools and where they might be, and
That's fine.
yeah. So we did dig into Hallie just a little bit, but she's kind of our butterflies and roses girl. It changes on the daily.
She wants to go to Hawaii for pre-college
Yeah.
from Cassandra's class,
Yes.
so.
That was the
She
dream that
came
day.
home and said, I'm going to pre-college in Hawaii. I'm like, what are you talking
In
about?
10th grade. I was like, what?
It was great. It was great.
Yeah, our oldest is kind of our one that we pre-college, I don't know. Cassandra must have done some study.
Type of class.
Yeah, some type of study there, maybe in between her years. But our oldest one is kind of our one that we're trying to navigate his dream a little bit. He currently wants to do summer sales, so we've been trying to figure out how you can spend a day with Todd and a day with Dad, or my dad out on the job, some sales type,
Some life experience.
some life
Yeah.
experience.
That's great.
I don't know.
How about Cooper?
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Sports of something. The
Anything
kid's
with a ball?
talented. We just gotta find a way to harness the energy and keep him moving. But, no, I don't know what his dream was. That's what he
He's a
wants.
basketball player.
Yeah.
He'll be 5'1", so he's got a good shot.
Not a good, I mean, he has a good shot. Yeah.
Yeah, so I did come home and attempt to regurgitate the questions to Todd, but
I meant to bring my voice recorder. I forgot it.
is it not on
Oh, it is in the truck. Anyways.
That's great. Were you
Yeah,
gone?
I was gonna say,
Were
what
you
about
in
your
last
kids?
class? I can't
I was here at the last one.
Oh, yes, it was the one before that.
remember. So how about Allie and Jackson?
No.
Well,
What are their dreams?
I took the time to ask the same questions about the other twin that I didn't do in class, and that was very insightful to try to. And I think that I'm not super good at pinpointing it for them yet, so I'm gonna work harder on it because I see things pretty differently.
Yeah.
I'm not that cool.
Is it more helpful if that,
I'm not a 17-year-old
no,
teenager,
I
so
think we're all,
everything I say
we're
is a
all that
little
way.
out there. But
Why don't you say it to my kid and I'll say it to you?
Done.
And we'll see.
Done.
Okay,
Done.
one kid asked me this week if I'd taken my ding dong pills.
Oh,
Did you say yes?
yeah.
I'm like, isn't it obvious?
You can't tell.
Yeah, is it helpful if we try to, it's this balance of, do we keep giving ideas? Do we keep giving ideas? Or does that like make their mind ping pong a little bit? Especially with a child that doesn't attend this school, it's really hard to get his mind to go deep like that. It's really hard for him to, his school is vastly different.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's hard. So it's kind of this balance of he doesn't listen to a thing we say, so when do we just stop talking and try to just go with whatever he said. Summer shells, yeah, not my ideal, but hey, it'll get some money in his pocket, and he did just ask Todd 3 nights ago, could you help me look up colleges? And I'm like, back to last year. Yep, we'll do that again. Here's the spreadsheet, here's the, so I don't know, it's a hard waffle of, yeah, how much do you suggest and how much do you just listen?
And every case is different, right? There's no,
Watching for those opportunities where they might be a little bit more open and then holding back when, you know, there's more of a wall there. I mean, it's.
So it's funny how hot and cold they can be, like, one day all in, next day, don't talk to me about that.
I know.
It's a little bit of a dance.
I kind of had a realization about that with my third son. And he kind of always like thought he knew what he was gonna do. Like he's kind of one of those straight shooters. And then he had this incredible experience on his mission where Heavenly Father told him something completely different, like polar opposite of what he had always thought he would do. And to see him come home with a purpose and a mission, and to dive into school head first, and to be like crazy out of his mind excited about it and inspired, and like, you know, he's sitting in on court cases and criminal justice and political science and constitutional law, and he's geeking out over it. He loves it so much. He's like, oh, this is so amazing. I'm like, oh, that's what we're talking about. Because I think they have to land it. They have to land it on their own. I never could have ever thought of that for him in a million years, but he's so inspired by it, and that's how you know it's right?
But don't you think him knowing and being directed before that set him up for when the right thing came in and he was like, oh yes.
Yeah,
Oh
for
yes.
sure.
You know, that direction, that journey that the kids take as they,
Right.
It's beautiful to watch when they understand they have something important to do.
And
When they
even-
understand they have something important to do.
Even like practicing. Like, it feels like the whole time he was growing up, he was practicing, starting to feel what he's passionate about. He was practicing. He was obsessed. He thought the human body was amazing. He was for sure going into medical. Like, it was like he was practicing feeling his passions and his mission, and like just trying it out and feeling it. And so you're right, that was good practice, right?
It was preparing him.
It may not have been the end ticket, but who cares? We're practicing, and that's how we get there.
Exactly.
the concept of having a vision, having goals, is really the important part, right? It's that mindset and that practice. Because at that age, even at my age, vision changes, right? So the idea is, are we at least looking for a vision, looking for a purpose, taking steps towards that, and then adjusting as more information comes, right? So I think that's right, and even with your kids, right, it may change on a daily or multiple times a day, but the idea is if they have a vision, that's important right now, and it's plenty of time to practice, right? We don't have to be in a hurry necessarily.
Practice is good. What about Julia, Heather?
She is my kid that really has no idea what she wants to become, but she understands this. She needs to do really well right now and to really focus right now to become prepared for whatever it is. But she really has no clue. The only one about my daughters, but she gets the here and now preparation probably better than any of my other daughters did. So, like I said, we're practicing, and she knows she has important stuff to do. She
I
just
think
has
they've learned a
no
beautiful
idea.
thing through COVID and stuff too, which is flexibility.
Yes.
Like, I didn't ever have to be flexible in my educational years. It was very constant. And you know, they've experienced some years now. You stay home. Oh, now you're on the computer. Oh, now you're gonna wear a mask. You know, so they've really had to become a little bit adaptable, which I think will provide some strengths maybe down the road or maybe right now. I don't know. So if she's in the here and now and she's present, I think that's a win.
That's what-
Because how hard is it to teach
I'm not
anybody,
worried
even
about
myself, to be present sometimes, you know?
Yeah.
Not be thinking about something else.
Almost
I remember when you were pregnant with her.
I know.
What the heck?
I know.
And you haven't aged at all.
It's true.
It is true.
It is so kind.
And Brad got his full ride to Utah State, he told me. Now he's just waiting on that
He wants
BYU.
BYU.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm
So
kidding.
he's just waiting for
It'll happen.
It will come. I have no doubt.
So I actually had the students go through that process in my 2 classes, and I just want to read some of the visions. This is for the Aspire class, so they're 15, right?
14.
14, 15.
Yeah, 14 to 15.
And you'll notice there's a pretty big difference between even that age group and the other age group, the older ones, right? I wanna be a mom, go on a mission, and go to college. Marine biologist or a famous singer, one of the two. I wanna travel, I wanna be a mom. I wanna be married, have a family, and be a PA. I wanna be physically fit and healthy. I want land and animals. I want college and I want money. I wanna be an aerospace engineer, marriage and family, a gun designer or a writer. So those are kind of related. An entrepreneur. I wanna travel, have a farm with horses, and go to college in Hawaii. Maybe. Entrepreneur, hairstylist. I wanna go to college, skate, travel, have land, and have knowledge. I wanna have an eternal family, go to college, have a mission, be a NICU nurse, and play volleyball. Family, zoologist, entrepreneur, and mom. I think, you know, you can kind of cluster some of those common ones. It comes up quite often about being a mom and having a family here, right? It's pretty cool.
That's kind of a celebration.
Yeah.
In
Yeah, I was
today's
gonna
world,
say-
In
that
today's
is a
world?
huge celebration.
That is
right now.
massive.
Yeah, yeah.
The older class, I want a successful marriage, family, get an education, and work. I want to become worthy of the type of person that I want to marry, and then be an example to my kids of the type of person that I want them to grow up to.
That has to be
That's
Kyler.
That's a pretty cool vision.
Kyler, can I guess these? Do I get
It's
extra?
not
I know,
bad.
I was gonna say, can you tell us who our kids are really?
I want to gather women of the world to build Zion, be a light and comfort the lonely. I want to have a life I can't wait to wake up to, make mom and dad proud, and have a temple marriage. That's a pretty cool vision.
I'm gonna totally get Terry. How do you read these?
Who
and
are
not
these
get so
children?
emotional? I know.
No, this is who we get associated with.
I want to make a TV show, complete a comic strip, have a financial success, and become educated. I want to become a mother, raise my children in the gospel, and give them a solid education. Continually growing and learning, knowing my life mission, travel and see the world, fall in love and get married, make an impact, serve a mission, learn about the human body, and help others. That's a lot of vision. A neuroscientist, I want to become closer to God, find out what is mine to do, take more risks and adventures. I want to get my license.
I don't license, you got the grad vision.
I want to find a schedule that works for me that will help me to have a good balance at work and free time. I want to own a business, own my own house and land, find and know my life mission. I want to be a therapist, save people from their harsh mental states. Well, that was interesting. And secure a place in the celestial kingdom. I want to be a veterinarian, speak other languages, visit other countries and get to know other people, bring people of other cultures and races together. I want to have a happy family, wealthy enough to provide for my family. I want to lose weight and gain muscle, and I want to graduate with a 4.0. I want to travel the world and start a family. I want to serve a mission, be as prepared as possible. I want to become an accomplished professional skier, own my own business, be well known, and be admired. I want to go on a mission, get married, raise my children in the gospel and with good morals. I want to go to medical school to become a brain surgeon, a mom, serve others. I want to be a helicopter pilot, working for Christ and be a good person. I want a well-paying job that I enjoy, be independent, have a great relationship with God. I want to be a lawyer, be close to God. I want to live a happy life, have a good family relationship. Be at peace with myself, be wealthy, both spiritually and materially. So interesting visions, right?
Awesome, so much about
I
the
feel like
spirit
getting
in there.
some preparation, even when they don't like specifically say, I wanna be a lawyer, or I wanna be a this, they talk about, a lot of them talk about preparation. I want to be prepared, and then it's like that fertile soil that as soon as, you know, God gives them that inspiration, they're prepared, then they'll just run with it.
There's a variety of time frames, a variety of scope, right? Some are pretty narrow and soon, others are bigger. I just want my license, that's all I care about right now.
Hey, that's all right.
So I went one more step and I said, well, what are the obstacles? What's standing in your way? And this is a pretty interesting list too. Cause it's a really poignant contrast between this vision and what they feel like is keeping them from that. So people saying I can't do it, my age, my insecurities, my health, my limits, my knowledge, money, not enough money, school's getting in the way.
Okay.
Not enough time, not enough money, my age, time, temptations, and a shortage of opportunities. Money, lack of focus, lack of courage, lack of time, lack of skill, sin and temptation is getting in the way. Laziness, and I like this one, my own dang self.
Relatable.
Yeah, right? Honesty, I like it.
Procrastination, I'll fix that later, it doesn't matter right now.
They said that about procrastination.
That's the attitude, like, I'll just fix that later,
Oh,
I'm not
gotcha.
worried about that right now, right?
That's okay.
People, I love people, but they don't love me. I don't know anyone who likes what I do. A life mission isn't as fun alone. Money, I need the funds to get out of here. And naysayer, no one thinks I can do it.
That's not all the same person.
Same person.
That whole list?
Can I hug them?
I know,
Oh.
right?
Wow.
This is the one who wants to gather women of the world to build Zion, be a light, and comfort the lonely. By the way. Fear, I'm having a hard time getting started. I have to actually do something and get the skills. Not being very efficient with my time. Doubts, time, pride, money, fear, anxiety, lack of self-confidence, not enough sleep, not starting the schedule that I make. I need more balance and time management, fear, stress, worry, anxiety, feeling incapable. Keep going on, right? So it's interesting how inspiring one is, and then it's like, oh,
Yeah.
what a dark power are in the other ones that they feel like is keeping them from where they want to go. And part of that I want to kind of talk about tonight, because it leads into this idea about learning. And I want to share my come from, like where I'm coming from, why I believe so much in what we're doing here. It is about learning. And one of my heroes is Brigham Young, because I admire how much he was able to envision a future and then talk a whole bunch of people into buying into that vision and doing something about it. So he had to lead people across the plains, facing all the challenges that was. Get to a place where it was just all desert, no running toilets or plumbing or electricity or food or anything. And as soon as he got here and they made it through the first 1 or 2 winters, he was sending people north and south to go expand. We went down to Arizona recently and went through all of those little towns that he sent people to go start a place. We need to fill this whole western United States. And it's somebody that I admire that can have that kind of impact and that kind of effect on people. And so some of the writings that I've learned most from him on learning, the object of this existence is to, you could probably guess what that is, right? To learn. That was his message. And he said, well, what should we learn? Pretty much everything. Every historical, mathematical, philosophical, geographical, geological, astronomical, scientific, practical, and just in case I missed anything, everything else, all the other variety of useful and interesting writings should be part of what we're learning. And when do we get to stop learning? Well, we don't. When we pass through the veil, we expect to still continue to learn and increase our fund of information. And when we've lived millions of years in the presence of God and angels, shall we then cease learning? No, our eternity ceases. So, the key is diligence. After suitable rest and relaxation, don't wear yourselves out too fast. There's not a day, hour, or minute that we should spend in idleness. But every minute of every day of our lives, we should strive to improve our minds and to increase in the faith of the Holy Gospel. So put forth your ability to learn as fast as you can and gather all the strength of mind and the principle of faith you possibly can, and then distribute your knowledge to the people. So when I read some of these and I think about a bigger scope maybe of what I had kind of interpreted learning to be, that there's a lot bigger time frame and a lot bigger amount of things that I need to learn. Right? So I'm going to be doing this for a long time, and so I thought, well, if I'm going to be doing it for a long time, I probably should get as good as I can at doing it. So one, I can enjoy it. Otherwise, it's going to be more like hell than heaven, right? And then two, so that I can do exactly what he's saying. Gather all your strength of mind, the principle, and the faith that you possibly can. So do everything you can to gain what you can, so that then you can be more capable, a more capable servant to serve other people and distribute what you have gained to others. So when we talk about learning, in my mind, there's three elements. There's a physical aspect to learning. There's something that if I understand how my brain works, I can learn things in a way that's more amenable to how my brain works. Right? There are physical neurons and processes that scientists have learned how to study more effectively and more efficiently. So there's a physical aspect. For me, there's also a spiritual aspect. This is the body and the brain. The spiritual is where I get a sense of vision and purpose. And then there's also a mental aspect. And as I read some of those obstacles, that's a pretty big part of what they see as the obstacles, right? We have groups of voices, at least in my mind, in my head I have those, right? There's voices that inspire me, the inner inspirer. There's voices that try to tear me down and criticize and critique. And then somewhere in there is the real me as well, that I need to kind of sort out. What's my voice versus what are the voices trying to build me up versus what voices trying to tear me down. And all of these have to do with learning.
Did you say there was 4 or 3? Sorry.
I may have said 4, I meant 3.
I think you said.
And some of this blends together, so maybe there's just 2, but it's kind of helpful for me to kind of categorize it this way, because I can attack it from a couple of different perspectives to try to make my learning, the skills that I have, and the energy that I'm applying to that as effective as possible. So we've talked a little bit about vision and purpose. I want to spend a few minutes on physical, so understanding how the brain and the body works in order to make our study time as efficient as we can. And one thing that's kind of interesting about this is we go through school and most of our experience is trying to learn content. This is what you should learn. Not a lot of time is spent on, this is how you should learn it. This is how you can do it most effectively. So in my classes, I spend a good part of the first of the year just focusing on how to learn, so that later on what to learn comes a little bit easier and is a little more fun. And a couple of books that I rely on a lot are these. It's the same author, so Learning How to Learn, and then A Mind for Numbers. This was a lady, it's Barbara Oakley. She grew up hating math and science, and later on became a professor of math and science and engineering. So there was a time in her life as an adult where she had joined the army and had been given some assignments that required some math and science. She was good at learning languages, terrible at math and science, but she realized if she's gonna be successful, she needs to figure that out. And she found some ways to make math and science a little bit easier to understand, so now she teaches classes, and millions of people have taken her classes about learning how to learn. So it's really helpful, I think, for the students to, in a sense, I give them permission to be okay with how they're learning, what they want to do. Okay, so maybe let's talk about this. There's a couple of principles. A brain is kind of like an octopus with some arms that are trying to juggle things. And as we're learning new information, those arms get full, and we're kind of limited at between 6, 7, or 8 really key ideas. Before that, we're just saturated. We drop some of those in order for more to come in, or we ignore anything else and we just focus on those things. So that's when we're focused, that's a time of concentration. There's effort, there's concentration, we're really trying to learn. But if we spend too much time, then our brain gets tired, and any more time we spend doing that doesn't do a lot of good. And so she recommends that you actually have a practice of switching back and forth between what she calls focus mode and diffuse mode. Where diffuse mode is, say, you just need to go take a break. And it could be a lot of different things. Go get a snack, you could go outside, you could go walk in the grass, you could play, you could rest while you take a little nap. All these different things isn't a time when the brain is turned off. It's a time for the brain to consolidate. Take what it's learning, try to make sense of it, and then put that into a longer term memory. So that's how our brain is designed to work. You focus, then go take a break, come back and focus again, take a break. And a lot of us so we have certain practices that interrupt that process or destroy that process altogether, right? So a couple of things that we talk about in class. If you procrastinate a learning experience till the night before, it's 10 o'clock at night, your assignment's due the next morning, you're just rushing and trying to stay focused as much as you can, but you're almost guaranteed to not have a long-term benefit of that. You might get it done, but it's not gonna last, it's not gonna stay. So if you have a habit of procrastinating until the very end, you're actually limiting your ability to learn. Something else that interrupts this process is a distraction. Phone goes off, kid brother comes in, knocks on the door, they're screaming, they're laughing, might have music going on, might have TV going on, might have a phone. All these things can distract and disrupt this focused and diffuse time. So sometimes the kids will ask, well, isn't diffuse just essentially a distraction? What's the difference? And the answer is, this is a planned break. This is an unplanned break. The unplanned break sidetracks you because it's not expected. And it's a little difficult to get back into this mode once a distraction has come and interrupted it or disrupted it. Some other things that contribute to this. Poor sleep patterns. You stay up too late, you're gonna limit your ability to remember. During sleep is when a lot of this consolidation from the day before comes into play. It starts to happen. So if you are not sleeping consistently and well, then your brain's not able to function as well as it could. nutrition. Also limits your ability to remember and to learn. So these are all things that could be negatives. And I think one of the coolest things when students kind of get this idea of focus and diffuse, they kind of sigh, they have this sense of relief, right? Because most of them get really, really frustrated. They can't sit down and just read for a couple of hours at a time. Their brain just doesn't work that way. And they think that's because they're just not capable. They're not as smart. So when I tell them actually, that actually doesn't do a lot of good, people that do that, it's really hard to build up the capacity to stay focused that long. So give yourself permission to take a break and do it on your terms and then get back to it. Focus for time as long as you can, and then you slowly want to build up this ability to focus for longer and longer and longer periods at a time. But be gentle with yourself, right?
James,
Yes.
just a little side note, Allie has been applying this, and I was asking her about, an assignment that she was working on, and she said, she's like, she's like, I'm gonna go play this really hard piece on the piano right now, and then I'm gonna go work on that assignment, and while I'm working on the assignment, my brain is gonna be consolidating and still working on that piano piece, and then after I'm done with the assignment, when I go back and play it, listen. And she's been like doing I'm like, boy, if I was, I don't know that I would be mature enough to have that be my diffuse break, is to go play a really hard piano song, but she's finding that intense focus and then trading it off with another activity, and her brain is still working on that piece. When she comes back to it, she's better at it than she was when she just played it. Her brain is still working on it. So that, I thought it was so fascinating that she's applying that in a really
so
hard way. I would.
Diffuse mode can be go focus on something else.
Yeah.
It still works.
A change of gear.
Yeah, you're just changing gear, you're just kind of resetting things, so.
Allie needs to throw some carrots in the mix.
I know. Something else. It totally fascinated me that she's convinced that she's seen it happen, that her brain is still working on it, even when she walks away from it and she goes to do, so both ways. It's really, really cool.
Okay, good. So here's one of the challenges about a school environment. You go to class, what's a big element of the class experience?
Distraction?
Maybe. There's 30 other distractions going on all the time, right? So how do you do this in a class environment effectively when you've got so much of this that's out of your control?
You grow up. I think age is a big part of it, naturally. Sit in a 6th grade class and then sit in a 12th grade.
So you hope you get 1 minute in 6th grade and 5 minutes in 12th grade, right? So that's part of it, is trying to get the class to buy into this model. So we have, okay, it's time to focus for a few minutes, let's concentrate on this. Try not to be a distraction to your neighborhood, right? But the other thing is to just recognize that the classroom environment isn't actually the greatest environment for this. The classroom environment is great for this part, to inspire and have vision and to get everybody energized, to then go home or go to the library and apply this. This is where that deeper, longer term learning can take place. This is where you can get the motivation to go do that part.
It's
So-
interesting, you would think that physical would be teaching physical and being in person.
Yeah.
But I get the opposite.
Yeah, we get this, so most of the schools measure the quality of education by seat time. Right? How many hours are you in class? You get credit for those hours. Where the learning is actually taking place at home or in a quiet place on your own, maybe in a small group. Some people do really well questioning each other, peppering them with questions and reviewing. But you still need some time to be able to focus and then diffuse, focus and diffuse. So this is one of the big reasons why we have a 3-day schedule at Ascend. So that Wednesday and Friday, you have plenty of time to do this if you're using your time wisely. And we'll always kind of be pushing that direction because the class time is really here. It's not necessarily here as much as we would like it to be. Thoughts or questions or comments? Thanks for sharing that about Ally, by the way. It's great to bring that practical part in, right? Okay. So one of the things that I challenged them to do is to get a little timer. In the book, she calls it a pomodoro, which is Italian for tomato, because they have these tomato-shaped timers for some reason. So you can set it for 10 minutes, and then you just have to focus until the timer goes off, then you can go take a break. And it's not a phone timer because a phone has too many distractions on it, right? You want something that's not that. I encourage them to maybe let the family know, hey, it's my study time. So I'm gonna go close my door for a reason, so let me just have my time. So try to set the environment a little bit. And I also encourage them to make it a time where they're having fun in doing that. Because there's one other element here. Stress. There's chemicals that are released under stress in the brain that cause the brain to focus on just things that are very important, like survival, right? So cortisol, some of those things, they don't really let us think big picture and and help us focus much when the brain's just worried about surviving, under the stressful conditions. So lack of sleep, stress before a test is coming up, if you're just pushing and you're really worried and you're anxious about what's gonna happen, it's actually negatively affecting your ability to learn in those conditions, right? So trying to reframe that, to de-stress the experience is really helpful as well.
James, I just have to tell you, you asked all the students to get a watch to be used as part of your supply list. That watch has changed Julia's life. It's like she has that thing going all the time. It is the funnest thing to watch her. And I think that it's given her the tools to be able to totally structure her time. And it's been empowering, absolutely empowering to be able to really account for every minute of the day. And so just like that's your best friend. That watch is your best friend.
It's funny, we grew up with watches, our kids didn't, they grew up with phones, right? And I don't even wear a watch anymore because I carry a phone, which is my watch. But it's a pretty powerful tool. So hopefully it's working for some of them. All right, let's talk about the mental side. As I read through the obstacles that the students see, there's a lot of the mental that is kind of in the way. And I think this next semester, that's an area I want to focus on a little bit to kind of address some of that. To think about how can we reframe what's the inside talk, the talk inside our heads, that maybe we can help to increase our ability to learn by quieting or ignoring some of the critical parts and building up the inspiring parts. And one of the things I do in class is to reframe, because I have some 4-letter words in my class that I don't allow. So, Mr. Malmstrom, do I have to do this part? Did you just say that 4-letter word in my class? I mean, do I get to do this part? Yes, you do get to.
He learned that from his dad, who was a school teacher. And when kids would ask if they could go to the bathroom, he'd say, I don't know, can you? That's where that came from, huh?
Part of it.
That's good.
So reframing have to, need to, should, to, get to, want to, choose to. And it's amazing how powerful those words are. And it might seem like a little thing, but if you're at a place where I have to do this assignment. I have to do my homework. That's dragging you down. It feels like it's adding some stress. It's already setting you up to not really be able to perform. And if you just reframe that, you know what? This is an assignment. I get to do that. I'm choosing to do it. That washes that cortisol away, right? So being able to reframe and think through what some of those mental voices are doing is really, really powerful.
I think it's tricky too for these kids. They're constantly being told and shown and watching everything that they aren't. You know, they're literally always like, you know, at least our kids, it seems, are just always being shown everything they aren't. Here's everything you can't do. Here, you know, here's everything that you're not doing, and and they're forgetting who they are. And I think sometimes even in my own life, I can be told something or called something or, you know, whatever, and I have to remember, wait a second, who am I really? And what am I really? So I think that is a big part, and somebody in there, what they wanted to be, I think they're spot on with the mental, you know, getting in line and helping people with the mental piece of it, because I think in today's world especially, I didn't carry around a device that was constantly telling me what I don't look like, but I should, and what sport I should be good at, but I'm not, and I didn't carry that in my pocket all the time. It probably would have destroyed me, truthfully. It was hard enough to have self-confidence as a girl and a woman, and these kids, I feel so bad for them in essence, because I'm like, oh, you gotta, that's why I'm grateful for a place like this, where they can learn who they are, not who they aren't.
Mhm.
Because you're already compared for your whole life naturally.
Yeah, and
So
I really like that aspect, to recognize that they live in a different world than we did. And I think it's also helped to try to reframe that even a little bit, right? Because we can feel bad for them and sorry for them, but we can also recognize that that is a unique experience that they have that we didn't. And because they're more in tune with how they feel, they actually have a bigger capacity to empathize and to have compassion to accept people that are different. And so it
That's
can
true, too.
become a strength as well if we can reframe that a little bit. And think about the opportunity over the problem. And it's still there, it's still the same thing, but our approach to it, or the power that we give it, I guess, in a sense, it's a different energy.
whatever you feed will grow.
James,
Yeah.
I was just thinking how important it is to train them on the mental aspect and train them how to recognize what's going on and where some of those voices might be coming from. Because when you were talking about what some of their visions are and how huge they are, how intense is it to realize that is such a huge vision that Heavenly Father really genuinely planted in them, that they couldn't have come up with that without Heavenly Father planting those seeds. And there's literally someone else that will do anything to make sure they never achieve that mission, because it's too big, it's too important, it matters too much. But how do they know how to combat all of that that's happening? That seems like it's such an important training.
Yeah.
If we're focused on mission and our vision and our why, boy, they've got to know what to do with that, because that's not going anywhere. That's not going away. If anything, it'll probably get louder as they get closer to it.
Yeah, and then just like this is a skill set,
Yeah.
it's teaching the principles and then practicing, getting really good at it. There are also, it's a skill set on this side, to be able to sort through what those voices are, recognize them. There are practices that you can do to help boost the mental side of the learning, right? So what's key is I'm trying to get all three of these elements pointing in the same direction. So they're working together and not against each other. If I've got a great vision and I'm studying really well and I have a terrible mental aspect, it's not gonna work as well as it could, right? This is really gonna limit how much I can apply this to obtain this. And the same thing goes here, I can have a great vision and have the voices kind of figured out, but if I don't have physical tools here, it won't be as effective either. So trying to get all these aligned and understand the skills that are involved with each of them and practicing those. So it's a more holistic approach to learning is really where I see the great value that we can bring. So let's maybe talk a little bit about vision and purpose then. My model is it comes from a spiritual place. It can be, if that doesn't work for you, there's other ways to think about where that can come from. So Kara, you asked actually, about vision. When do we know to stop pushing and when do we know to kind
I'm
of
suggesting
help
it.
them build the vision, right? One of the things I've kind of found and I've heard is that, in a marriage, there's one that's a little bit better about helping with vision and another one that's helping with confidence. Sometimes I think as dads, if we try to instill vision, it feels more like we're setting high expectations that cause stress and anxiety, right?
We're talking about for ourselves or for you?
Both. Because we bring, a little bit element of what if they don't measure up? What if they aren't capable? What does their future look like? And that can be a dangerous energy, right? Because it can really crush some of that vision and take maybe a side road out of that vision that could have been because, it's gotta be more practical. And we lose the power of that big vision that we can go after because we're afraid that, they'll probably fail at that and then what's gonna happen. So let's make sure we're safe and we do something so that they're gonna be taken care of, right? I want to read some notes I have on this about purpose. So when you're talking about learning, purpose is a really powerful tool, I think. What is the purpose? If the purpose of the teachers and the parents is to just meet the minimum standards so they don't look bad to their neighbors, it's going to reflect in the educational experience. If the purpose is to pass a test, it's going to reflect in the educational experience. If the purpose is to receive a certain award or a scholarship, then it's going to reflect in that educational experience. If it's to get a certain job, it's going to reflect in that experience. If the purpose is to help the student achieve their full potential by detecting, preparing for, and polishing, and applying their personal areas of genius, skills, abilities, mission in life, it's also going to reflect in that educational experience. So what the purpose is, why am I learning this? Why am I asking you to learn this? Will reflect in the quality of that learning. If what I always try to do is try to expand the purpose, right? See the big picture. Why do you care about Reconstruction after the Civil War? Why should that matter to a 14, 15, 16-year-old in Kaysville, Utah in 2024? Right? Why would you care about learning about Reconstruction? There's knowledge associated with that. There's learning from history. There's a whole bunch of different reasons why we might want to do that. Ultimately, though, for me, it's one more step towards your preparation for your life mission. And that particular content might not be great, but if you can use that content to get better at this, that's a great thing, right? All right, so give me some feedback. What have you learned today that was worth you coming tonight?
All of it, James.
I don't know about all of it.
No, truthfully.
What are some take-home things that you feel like you could go home tonight, the next couple of days, could be a different parent for your children because you came?
I think Hallie sits at the table sometimes and cries while she grinds out homework, right? She's so dedicated to it, and it's difficult for her, but she has that self-discipline to be like, I have to get it done, so I'm gonna go, but I'm gonna cry the whole time because I'm angry or tired or whatever it is. And so I think helping her understand the focus and diffuse while trying to eliminate distraction, and the watch is a fantastic idea. And just helping instill that into her. I imagine the movie In and Out when they like bank all the memories. Right? Like when
Inside Out.
Inside Out. Like when you
Not
walk
like
away,
the
when you walk away to diffuse, you're banking all
Yeah.
that stuff you just
Yeah.
learned, and you know you're going to hit that reset button. And,
Yeah, that's great.
and I think I could do better. Karen and I could do better at helping her focus and also diffuse, and then come back.
It's tricky too when you have a child that it doesn't come super easily. Like our kids all learn very differently and at different speeds, and our oldest is super naturally smart but incredibly lazy, so that's a hard application. And then Hallie works really hard but isn't as naturally smart, and then Cooper's just all over the place, but he's pretty smart too when he focuses. So yeah, so it's hard because she feels like she's losing out on so much time when she takes time to diffuse.
But she has the discipline. So
Yeah, but
sits
she
there
has
and
the discipline, so
yeah.
she'll sit there, so, yeah, it'll be interesting to see if that is something that works for her, cause she's gonna feel like she's gonna run out of time. I know what she's gonna, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
she's gonna be like, I only have 30 minutes, and I don't know, so.
So that's to the part too, she's waiting until the night before, it's really hard to do focus and diffuse.
Yeah,
So breaking it up over the week or days is gonna help take some of that stress off. That takes some discipline.
I think planning too, like I wished I could, she's also at the age where she wants to be really independent and be responsible for all of her own stuff, and you try and weave through that a little bit too, but I think a planner, at least for me, like it's good to write out everything I need to do, maybe even a week like Mr. E does that, in his classes, his planner is 1, 2, 3 weeks in advance, so it's nice, they have a clear idea, but I think, yes, she is my child and procrastinates, and it's natural for her too, so it would be helpful, to try and get her to lay it out a little further down the line and see if that helps a little bit too.
It is interesting when you figure out that sometimes taking your foot off the accelerator actually gets you further
Yeah.
in some cases,
I
right?
think Brooke Mueller was telling me that about Jackson. She's like, I swear the day I let go was the day he started flying. And I haven't known her long enough to know if that was true or not. He's just always been flying in my mind, but yeah.
Who else wants to share? Thanks for sharing those ideas.
Your lesson went in a different direction than I thought when you were reading the kids' visions and goals and then what's hindering them. When a lot of them said that it was their time, or there wasn't enough time, in my mind, I was like, do it now! Because
Yeah.
it's so much harder as an adult to try to go after this education when you're now adulting and you're momming and you're dadding and you're working and you're raising a family. They've got the whole world in front of them, and I'm like, grab it now and use it now and do it now, and then it took a different direction. So as a mom or wherever I am in my journey, looking at those comments, my thought is just to infuse, like, you do it now. You have all the time in the world right now. Do as much as you can right now, because you're still gonna have to, you'll have that much more to do as we continue on in progress and into eternity, but you've got prime time right now without all those adulting things weighing on you. And I know a lot's weighing on them. I'm not trying to minimize what they're going through and the stresses that they have, but do it now. And then I had the vision of a 3-legged stool with those 3 categories, or 3 strings on a hot air balloon, that you can't balance real well on a 2-legged stool. You gotta have 3 equally balanced to hold you steady, and having all 3 ties to a hot air balloon will take you higher. If one of those snaps, you're not gonna go as high. So that's given me a vision for everything that you've shared tonight.
How deflating and frustrating would it be to have a huge vision and then not have the skills to get there, right? And forever feel like it's hopeless, it's out of reach, I'll never get there, right? But you're right.
And can I add one more?
Yeah.
To add on to what Jackie was saying, I've heard this in a couple different places from a couple different sources. It's not doctrine, I don't know that there's a quote for it or anything, but I've heard that the first thought that you have that comes into your mind, like, oh, the kids are playing in the kiddie pool, I should go run and jump in and play with them. That's gonna lead to a great result. You're gonna bond with your kids, you're gonna have fun, you're gonna create a memory. But often, right on the heels of those positive things, we get the, oh, but then I'll get wet, and now dinner's gonna be dirty, and you know, dinner will be later, I'm gonna have to change my clothes after, and then we talk ourselves out of it. And I've heard that those are whatever your first impression is, go with it, and those second ones are a distraction. They're trying to derail you, and so maybe, and like I said, I can't point to anything that proves that, but I've just heard it in several different arenas that maybe if the kids started looking at that and observing it for themselves, that they would recognize that those voices are actually coming from a place that's trying to derail them.
That speaks to my soul. I tell my kids all that all the
Oh,
time.
cool.
Go with your first thought. Go with your first instinct. It's usually the Spirit or the Holy Ghost or, you know, or what have you. But I so often let the voices in the back get in the way because I'm a mom. I have stuff to do.
That's
I
right,
can't play in the kiddie pool right now.
that's right, yep.
And now I have children that don't want to play in the kiddie pool with me ever again.
Right.
And I'm like, why didn't I just get in the kiddie pool?
Yeah.
So yeah, that speaks to my soul. I think it's so true. Their instincts are gold. Look at their visions. Like that is
Mhm.
pure gold.
David, what insights have you had with Emma while you're here tonight?
Well, I like the list of things that keep you from getting because one of the challenges we've had this year is figuring out that sleep schedule. She thinks that she can stay up a little bit later on Tuesday nights because, you know,
No class Wednesday.
I'm like, no.
It's basically a weekend.
Right.
Not first thing.
That's where they get it from.
I'm just trying to teach her how that, you know, she's like, oh, I can, and I'm like, no, you know, we get to bed earlier and, you know, just pointing out to her that the days that she doesn't, you know, it's like, I kind of fried today. And so, yeah,
There-
you know, that makes a big, I think there are certain things on that list that, you know, I'm just amazed at the maturity, you know, and I think associating with good people, setting goals all the time helps breed that, but like she gets, so I think there is a maturity to that, you know, some of these things that she's just doing on her own and doing from things she's picked up in classes, and, but then there are some that it's like, oh, we do the watch thing. Need to stay on track, so I really like that concrete list, and
There's one more I could include on here.
exercise too. I would think.
Yeah, exercise is a positive and also consistency. There's actually quite a bit of science around someone who gets on a consistent wake and sleep schedule. Actually, the body thrives in that kind of environment versus sleeping in really late one morning,
Yo-yos.
getting up early and kind of going back and forth. That's really hard. It causes more stress to the system than if you just are consistent every day, getting up at the same time. Your body gets into that kind of rhythm.
I'm glad you brought that up with the sleep, because when we do have 2 days off, a Wednesday and a Friday specifically and deliberately, it does, some families do say, oh man, it does feel like a weekend. And we're not accomplishing what we're hoping to on that Wednesday and Friday. And so I love the opportunity to talk about it here, because you're right. They need to be going to bed. It's a weeknight. Tomorrow is still a school day, even though we're not on site, because they're actually, as you've been teaching, the most important school days.
That's prime study.
Prime
That's prime
time.
learning time.
I
Class is great for getting inspired and, you know, and energy and seeing other examples around you. But that Wednesday and Friday, if you're using that time well, that's really where you're thriving from a learning perspective.
And as we have a whole community of families who understand this rhythm, we'll really be able to protect that time. It's a beautiful thing to have peers that are doing the same thing you're doing, and really trying to manage those days to get the most benefit. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Jackie, how about you? What are some thoughts you've had tonight?
I just really appreciate that you have them listed the way they do. So right in the middle is your spiritual vision, your purpose. And all night I've heard that quote that you've said 100 times, that,
Sorry.
that if you have a big enough why, you can get through any how. And the outside kind of feel like the how, you know, it's stuff that we're gonna have to navigate. But if that center is our why, they're gonna be able to accomplish all of it because they know why. And that just feels so important to me tonight.
Thanks for sharing that.
Well, and I love the reminder of the reframing so that you can accomplish the why.
Yeah.
I mean, or so you can accomplish the hows. Because as you can eliminate some of that, or refine your self-talk, you're gonna be able to you're gonna be able to figure out how to do it. Instead of just coming after wall after wall after wall. So I was very grateful for those reminders. I've heard that in other places. I think all of us have. But to be reminded of it, thank you. Thank you.
I don't know where it belongs up there, but one thing we didn't really talk about is emotional. And I don't know if it's a big circle around all of it. And, you know, to have, you said your son became emotional about law all of a sudden, and that just drove him and propelled him forward. Passion. And then teens trying to balance their emotions, right? I feel like we are either 100 or we are 0, our teenagers. And so finding a way to help them balance that needle. Let's not overreact, let's not underreact. Keeping it right there in the middle. And I think emotion is such a big deal to these kids. They have so many emotions. So I don't know where it goes.
Yeah, no, I think that's good to add. That's like I said, the divisions are a little bit arbitrary and maybe not perfect. So to bring in that aspect, that could be part of mental, it could be
Yeah.
part of physical.
I kept thinking, where
It
does
could be
it
a
go?
combination, but if it's helpful to think of that as a separate category and think about, you know, how do we manage our emotions a little bit better? There's skills involved in that as well as anything.
Well, and I think the majority of our emotions are actually created by our thoughts, and they're generating those emotions. So if we really can learn how to train our thoughts and how to understand them and reframe them, we're generating emotions, and we can start to learn how to generate the emotions that are going to propel us forward instead of hold us back, just by learning that mental process.
Yeah.
That helps us to generate emotions.
Yeah, I like that.
Get to, want to, choose to.
Yeah.
All right, any other last thoughts? It was worth your time coming tonight.
Super beneficial.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
What kind of a home was Brigham Young raised in? That's a side tangent, I'm so sorry.
Was he raised in?
Yeah,
No need to apologize.
well, he's trying to end, and I'm like, no, talk more.
I'm trying to remember what his upbringing
Like, don't you
was.
just wonder
What
how he naturally had it all?
what led to that?
Yeah, like
Yeah.
how he's like, yeah, Heather,
You-
go build that town. You're gonna
You
do
go
awesome. I
Research
love you.
that and bring it back next month.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, I'll
I
do that.
noticed a couple things. He took 2 years investigating the church before he committed.
Mhm.
That says an awful lot about the kind of man he was.
Yeah.
You know, it's 2 years of him studying and deliberating because he wanted to make sure that he really believed it. And he grew up in a little town of Mendon, outside of Palmyra. That's about the only 2 things I know about him. But
Mendon, New York?
Mhm.
Okay, not Mendon in Cache Valley.
No. That's probably where Mendon came up, but.
It probably is. It
Yeah,
probably is.
so, but I think it says an awful lot about his character that he took 2 years deliberating and researching. And I love this man. He's one of my greatest mentors for a lot of the same reasons for you. And I love the way he parented. I love the way, what he valued when he came and settled. And I've tried to put some of those same things like, education and learning instruments and theater and understanding the power of strengthening your body as part of my homeschool. He was a very, very big mentor when I was creating what I wanted to have in my homeschool. Much of it was designed after what he did.
I always just wonder what their parents are like. I'm like, what did they?
Yeah, I don't
What
know
did
how
they
we
stand
came-
for in their
how
home?
he became
What were they
who he was.
teaching? How did they love him? You know, like, I don't know.
He had a brother too, they worked together, was it Phineas? I think
I think so.
It's a good question, it's worth
It's a great
going
question.
to.
Because he either had an incredible idealistic environment or he didn't, and that propelled
That's what he
him
wanted.
to create that, right?
Yeah, it's usually one or the other.
I don't know how it applies to this, but one of my favorite quotes of Brigham Young's is, "A woman's place is where she's needed." And that could be in the workplace. That could be, first and foremost, in my opinion, would be the home, right? So that's why so many of those young women wrote, be a mother on there. But if once that passes, where's her place? And just thought that was great. In that day and age, that was not a popular mindset, right? And so for him to say, a woman's place is where she's needed, whether it's in the fields or in the home or wherever. I thought that was, bold of him,
And
very much the
broad
Lord's
vision
mouthpiece.
of women.
You have good perspective.
So you're telling the story about him taking 2 years, actually brought up a memory from this week in math class. One of the things that she teaches in here, it has to do with reframing our experience with math. Because so many of us are introduced to math and math concepts before our brains are actually capable of understanding them. And so it gets really frustrating because we feel like we're stupid, like we should be getting this. And we see other students around us who are so much smarter than we are because they're quicker. And she's made the observation that it's interesting that students who are quicker, actually students who are slower to understand math and science concepts tend to be more creative and more intuitive because they're not just, the brain isn't satisfied with just memorizing the steps to solve a problem. They're trying to see the big picture. How does this fit in? How would I use it in this situation versus another situation? And so part of, that's another part of reframing is to understand our educational experiences and just try to flip the script a little bit so it becomes a positive and a strength and a blessing. I may not be as quick as other students, but I know it's gonna stick with me longer because I have to wrestle with it a little bit more. Right? And see that as a strength rather than a challenge. Right? So. All right, I think that's enough for tonight. Let's go home.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
So I have a funny, shut that off. I have a funny